Hello and welcome to ET Now's brand new series, Rendezvous at Taj. It's here that we meet timeless brands. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get bigger than this. Today, we're going to be talking to the Maharaja of Indian hospitality and the Maharaja of Indian skies has done a karvapsi of sorts of late. Two heritage brands. We're talking about Indian hotels as well as Air India, and the two bosses with us right here on today's show. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So we have Puneet Chhatwal as well as Campbell Wilson here with us. This restaurant is, of course, very special. Tell us a little bit about it. It's a really special one.
With Loya, we have ambitions and aspirations to take it to 4 properties within the next 12 months. The first one being Taj Palace in Delhi, second one being Taj West End, third one Taj Mahal Palace in Colaba in Mumbai, and the fourth one being Taj Lands End, and the rest will follow. So that's the initial plan, and we want to scale it up. This really is about a concept where great minds, great people meet and enjoy food from the north. And that's a great gathering, as we would like to call it. Very excited.
Campbell, welcome to India.
Thank you.
You're no stranger to the Taj Group of Hotels.
Not at all. It was my home for more than 3 months when I first came to Delhi.
And that's where you stayed at a Taj Hotel?
Yes.
Anything you want to tell him? How was it for 3 months?
I've already shared. The staff were fantastic. The hotel was fantastic. It was a wonderful entry into India.
So like I said...
the only regret we have is that 3 months is too less. We would have preferred for 3 more months.
Actually, so would I, but we then moved the office out to Gurgaon, so I had to shift myself.
And coming to that now, you have the task of an airline, which has done a homecoming of sorts. It's come back to the Tata Group. You have to make sure that the costs will be less, lessons have been learned, profits will be earned, and it'll become the largest airline. How are you going to do all of this?
Well, certainly the ambition is high, internally within Air India, within the Tata Group, but I think the ambition also exists for India generally. I think India has been seeking an airline that can represent it on the world stage in the way that India deserves to be represented, both in terms of scale, in product, in service, in technology, reliability. All of those things are top of mind for us as we rebuild Air India. And it's the perfect time to do it. It's 90 years, almost to the day, since J.R.D. Tata piloted the first flight of what became Air India. And so we're on this mission in the next 10 years, by the time of that anniversary, centenary anniversary, to really put Air India back at the top of the world-class rankings.
What do you mean by top of the world-class rankings?
Well, I think it has to be perceived as the equal or better of anyone that would be top to mind when you said, what is a world-class airline? So the peers that we're benchmarking ourselves against are the Qatars, the Emirates, the Singapores, and the others of that ilk. You know, the quality has to be consistent and very, very good. The quality of service, of product, the reliability, the aircraft, the technology, all of the things that people expect when they experience an airline. Now, we've clearly got some way to go to get there, but now that we're in private hands and the investment and the ambition is very, very clear, we're starting on that journey. We're very confident that we can do it.
You mentioned Qatar Airways, you mentioned Emirates, and you mentioned Singapore Airlines. Now, we all know Singapore Airlines, of course, has the joint venture with the Tata Group for Vistara. What's the flight plan going forward?
What's the flight plan? Well, we've got a very clear flight plan for Air India. We're calling it Vihan.ai, which is Sanskrit for a new dawn. And it really involves 3 phases. The first is what we're considering the taxi phase. Fix all of the legacy issues that have accumulated over the years, whether it is punctuality, seat quality, service quality, website, penalty refunds, all of these things we're focusing on addressing at effectively a war scale. Then when we come into next year, it becomes the taxi and takeoff stage, whereby we start and continue investing in systems and process and people in order to bring ourselves to very good. Then we get to the climb phase in about 3 years' time, where it's doing all of those thousands and thousands of little things better and consistently to go from very good to world class. It's also about expansion. We're looking to expand the airline fleet by about 3 times. We're looking to expand the market share considerably to about 30% domestically and internationally. And we're looking also to simplify the structure of the group. At the moment, Air India contains Air India and Air India Express. It's no secret that Tatas also have a stake in Air Asia India, and so we want to rationalise that structure. You mentioned Singapore Airlines. They're obviously an investor in the fourth airline in the Tata Group, Vistara. As to what the future holds there, I think that's more of a matter for shareholders, but whatever comes down the pitch, we shall play.
So what is it going to be? It's going to be Air Asia, Air India and Air India Express all under one umbrella? That's the rationalisation you're talking about?
From a corporate perspective, yes. From a business model perspective, there will be a full-service airline and a low-cost airline, because the market clearly needs different things for different people. Different routes are more aligned to a low-cost model, some are more attuned to a full-service one. So we need to have both in the stable, and we'll deploy either vehicle which makes the best sense for what the consumer really wants.
So Chhatwal, I said in the introduction that, the Maharaja of the skies as well as the Maharaja of the hospitality. How can you both together, the two brands, create magic?
Well, it's happening as we speak. Firstly, the hospitality in Sky is done by Taj, which is our joint venture with SATS from Singapore, who run the Singapore airport. And I think the focus has been on food quality, very strongly, to how to improve the quality of the food. Hospitality, aviation, food service, all these businesses gel much better than other businesses. So of course we need steel to build our hotels, and we need digitization, and their TCS can help us in all technology, and the Tata Digital for our loyalty program with Tata Neu as the platform. But nothing gels more than airlines, hospitality, and food service.
It's so consumer facing.
It's consumer facing, very strongly. Others are indirectly, but I think we are part and parcel of a similar kind of a business model, and we are very excited. We have had good partnership with Air India for many years, but now when you want to align yourselves with the strategy, as Campbell said, to be perceived as one of the top airlines in the world, that gels very well with the world's strongest hotel brand, Taj.
Yeah.
And their 90 years plus our 120 years takes us, in a double century. And if you're a double century player, to put it in Campbell's word, what comes down the pitch gets hit very hard.
Yeah.
Whether it's a T20, T50, a 50-over match or a test match.
You're a cricket fan?
Absolutely.
Who's your favourite cricketer?
Favourite cricketer at the moment, probably Kane Williamson. I'm revealing my national bias.
Yes, you are. I was hoping you'd say someone from the Indian team. We haven't convinced you yet?
Well, no, I've been a great fan of the Indian team. It's just we've had some very testy contests in the recent past. I think New Zealand was up in the World Cup and then got completely smashed by India here. So
they call it the World Cup jinx, right?
Yeah. We've got two very strong teams, and both of them very close to my heart.
Do you like Indian food?
I love Indian food.
The Indian diaspora, which is now doing better here as well as overseas. What's the game plan?
Well, the Indian diaspora is probably very, very strong today than ever before. You look at maybe 25 odd CEOs of various companies based out of US, which was very much unheard of. And this is not only in the corporate world, but also in the business part. A lot of businesses are flourishing outside, and a lot of Indian diaspora is now in the second or third generation, which makes it even more interesting. So their disposable income level, their will to experience something new, which is related to their heritage, is very strong, and that gives an opportunity not just for Air India, but also for our Taj brand. Not the other brands. We're really focused internationally on the Taj brand, and we would start working.
It won't be the Gingers, etc.
It won't be the
or the
Gingers.
Vivantas.
Yeah, I personally feel anything below luxury has a difficult time traveling across national frontier. So it has to be the luxury brand. And as a luxury brand, I think Taj is very well positioned to make its presence felt even in the secondary cities of UK or in Vancouver or in key gateway destinations in Europe or Southeast Asia, whether it's Singapore, it's Kuala Lumpur, and why not Frankfurt? Air India flies to Frankfurt, Vistara flies to Frankfurt. We have a base business, so why not establish presence? But we would not be owning the assets. So when we went international 20 years ago, we invested a lot of money in buying assets. Our model would be more driven by institutional funding, where we enter into management contracts or operating leases.
And coming to that same point, the Indian diaspora. So when you want to get to that 50% market share, first being 30% being the milestone and the initial target, Campbell, you're going to have to rely primarily on the Indian diaspora, right, to do that? Is that the strategy? Because we in India, we fly Singapore Airlines, we fly Qatar, we fly Emirates, we fly British Airways.
The current passenger base is largely Indian residents and diaspora. I think the challenge for us is to win back a higher share of that market in the first place. And we do that through a more reliable product, better quality, better service, all of the things I spoke about, investment in fleet. But thereafter, we want to move beyond people that are just in the diaspora or in India. We want to be a carrier of choice for anyone that's travelling. Just as you see in other airlines that you mentioned, it's not just their own nationals flying, it's nationals from all over the world. And we want to be that airline that people choose to fly because of product, quality, food, service. India's geographic position is perfectly advantageous to this. So really, it is moving into a higher share of the diaspora and the Indian market, and then beyond to serve the world.
And you've convinced the Tata Group to invest a lot more. You've talked about fleet expansion, the kind of capital investments that are going to have to take place.
Of course.
So they're double downing. Is there any figures yet that we know as far as investments go?
No, we're not talking figures. We're talking aspirations at the moment. Those aspirations are very clearly shared by the Tata Sons board and my board. And really, the challenge now is execution. We know where we want to be. We have a roadmap to get there. And now it's about putting the hard work in and accumulating those ones and twos in order to reach that century ultimately.
If you would allow me to ask you as crudely as I can.
Please.
How will you beat Indigo, which has a 50% market share? A lot is now being said about the new airline Akasa, backed by the late Mr. Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Jet Airways wants to make a comeback. How will you manage all of this competition?
Well, I mean, competition exists. In the international sphere, Air India has been up against dozens and dozens of airlines for many, many years. So competition is not a bad thing. In fact, it's a good thing. It forces us all to be better and really to focus on what the customer wants, not what we think they want. So we have to bring, firstly, our game up to compete better internationally, and then we also need to bring our game up better to compete domestically. We have done so already. As recently as April, Air India was only the 6th most punctual airline in India. In September, we were the 1st most punctual airline in India, and that's the first month since at least 2014 that Air India topped the rankings. So the investment is being made to improve the product. As we improve the product, people will think of us more often. As they think of us more often, we will be able to increase capacity, increase market share, and eventually become a bit more on parity with respect to the total market share. But is there an objective to be number 1 or number 2 in terms of the domestic market? No. It's to make a good level of connectivity between important cities in India. It is to deploy our sister carriers, our low-cost carriers, to some markets. And it's really to make money during the process. So really there's a whole range of priorities that we need to balance.
That's why we're all in business, right?
Of course.
Make money, and I think that's the problem that happened at the airline. But going forward, you've told us what the aspirations and all of that is going to be, how you're going to be far more on time, how the Tata brand is also going to be leveraged. But the COVID tailwinds, they are a reality. Revenge travel is not a fad. I was going through some airfares. This sounds crazy. 23,000 rupee return from Bombay, 15,000 rupee one way from Goa. Airfares, where are they headed?
Well, airfares are a function of supply and demand. And so if more capacity comes into the world system, yes, there's pressure downwards. If our product quality and reliability and our attractiveness to people improves, then airfares can be sustained. Frankly, we don't know where things are going to go in the short term. What we do know is if we invest in making the product better and more attractive, we are better able to compete regardless of what the rest of the market does. So we're focused on what we need to do first.
And Mr. Chhatwal, this is of course usually seasonally the best quarter. The third quarter is wedding season, it's festive season. How's business been?
Very strong. I have to say that we are very pleased with the business on the books. We're very pleased with the pace of bookings. And also, we are very pleased with all the openings that we have lined up. We're going to open almost 2 hotels a month as of this month. So October to March alone we'll open 12. And I think we've been able to successfully scale up our businesses. And we just crossed 100 in our homestay business. So the going is good both from the scaling up as well as in terms of the pace of bookings, and it's also coming at a better rate. See, India has lagged behind, including on airlines. I mean, if you say 23,000, that's not even $300. But if you buy economy ticket anywhere else, a return is not less than $300. So if we want to be among the top 5 economies of the world, with the ambition of getting to top 3, we cannot have the costs and salary structures of like beyond 20. So all these things will change, will evolve. And I think it's good because the average rate in luxury segment in India is between $150 to $200. Now, 150 to 200 for the kind of assets we have, for the kind of service we provide, is really below par. Anything 250 plus is what the industry should aim for. And that's very reasonable because a similar quality, firstly, you don't get. You only get it in Asia.
The hospitality,
or in the Emirates. So if you go to the West, you don't get a similar kind of quality. And with that kind of hospitality, that kind of quality, those kind of standards, processes, I think if we are charging 250, we're still at around 1/3 or 1/4 of what we are willing to pay in that kinds of. It's a long way to go.
It's what every CEO of every industry in India says, right? Like talk to the telecom industry and they'll say, nowhere in the world do you see these rates, but we have so much way to go. So as we do that, Mr. Chhatwal, and I know Nikunj has asked you this question in the past, what's the secret sauce?
The secret sauce, I wish I knew. I think in our sector, it's a lot of hard work. It's one sector which is operating 24/7, 365 days a year, and there is nothing like a holiday on Diwali or on Christmas. So I think it's a lot of hard work. It's a very capital intensive, very labor intensive sector. What we've tried to do is find a balance between our traditional businesses and the new businesses. In the new businesses, we leverage more the digital factor, like in our home delivery and our QSR as Cumin, our homestays, and the reimagined Ginger. And in the traditional businesses, the Taj, the Selections, the TajSats, and Vivanta, these are very important businesses. Taj is the backbone of the company. The new businesses will take very long time, 5-10 years more. But a very strong growth will come from the new businesses. So all in all, yes.
The best is yet to come.
One is that, and there is no secret sauce. Each of these brands requires a lot of hard work.
In long gestation.
In India. And also, how do you stay ahead of the game? You can't remain a very strong brand in each of these segments unless you continuously keep reimagining yourself, evolving, as an art and a science, and still stay profitable and drive the best possible margins.
It's all about margins, right? At the end of it, I'm sure both of you have to also explain how you're going to expand the margins. And as we start winding down the interview, Campbell, I want to ask you one question, and I hope it's not too cheeky, but they said only a very brave person would take on the role of becoming the CEO of Air India. How were you convinced that you wanted to take on this role?
It didn't really require much convincing.
No?
No, because you look at India, already the 5th largest economy in the world with a growth rate by far bigger than any other major country. You look at geography, it has all of the advantage of the super connecting air hubs in the neighborhood. The population, the increasing wealth, the diaspora, the service mindset and culture, the food, the attractions of the country. There are so many ingredients here that really underpin a good rationale for success. If you look at the Tata Airlines Group, they're a full service, low cost. Tata Sons Group has digital and hotels and all of the other contributing factors. So if this combination of assets and competencies, together with patient capital and ambition, can't realize success, then I don't know what constellation of things would. So really, it was not a difficult decision to come. This is India's decade for aviation to soar, in my view. It's the most exciting place in the world to be.
It is India's decade period. And on that note, I'd like to thank both of you for giving us this interview. I love the food, by the way.
Thank you.
So I look forward to the opening, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank
My pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.